My biological father moved his girlfriend and her kids into his apartment after 2 weeks and gave away my room, then he stopped paying child support to buy his stepdaughter expensive makeup. My mom is now filing for full custody after years of his neglect. For context, my 15F biological father has basically replaced me with his new family, and I don't know if I'm wrong for being upset about it. My parents split up when I was really young, like before I could even remember them being together. The custody arrangement they worked out was pretty standard. I stayed with my mom during the week and went to my dad's place every weekend. For a long time, this setup worked perfectly fine. When I was little, going to my dad's house was the highlight of my week. We had this whole routine that we stuck to almost every single weekend. Friday nights, we would stop at this video rental place and pick out movies. This was before everything moved to streaming, so we would spend like half an hour debating which ones to get. We usually ended up with way more than we could watch. Saturday mornings were for pancakes, and then we would go to this lake about 20 minutes from his apartment. He taught me how to fish there. I never really cared if we caught anything. It was just nice sitting there with him. Saturday afternoons we would kick a ball around at the park or ride bikes. There was this playground sort of hidden behind the zoo that hardly anyone knew about. He called it our secret spot. Sundays were lazy. We would watch the movies we rented and order pizza. My dad dated a lot back then. There was always someone new around, but none of them stuck. He would introduce me to a girlfriend and then 2 weeks later she would be gone and there would be someone else. It didn't bother me because no matter who was in his life, our weekends stayed the same. There was one woman who lasted longer, maybe 2 years. I actually liked her. She left right before I turned 10 and my dad seemed upset for a while, but then he went back to his usual pattern. I should mention that my mom got remarried when I was 5. Her husband, who I'll call James, has been around for most of my life. My mom told me once that when I was really small, I called him Dad. Apparently, my biological father found out and got really upset about it. He sat me down and told me that James wasn't my real dad and I shouldn't treat him like one. I was too young to really understand what was happening, but I took what he said seriously. For years after that, I went out of my way to keep distance from James. I would barely talk to him. I refused to do anything with him. Looking back now, I realize how messed up that was because James never did anything wrong. He was always nice to me. He tried to be involved. But I had it stuck in my head that I wasn't supposed to care about him. Everything started changing when I turned 12. My dad met this woman named Mallory. Within 2 weeks of them dating, she moved into his apartment with her 2 kids. One was older than me, maybe 14 at the time, and one was younger, around 9. The apartment wasn't big to begin with. It was a 2-bedroom place and I had the smaller room. After Mallory and her kids moved in, things got rearranged fast. The older daughter got my room. Well, technically we were supposed to share it, but she brought this massive bunk bed setup and a huge dresser. My stuff, which was just a small mattress and a few plastic drawers, got shoved into the corner. There was barely any space to walk. A few weeks later, my dad told me they were going to start putting my mattress in the hall closet when I wasn't there to make more room. He said they would take it out on weekends when I visited. Except they forgot to take it out a lot. I would show up on Friday evening and the closet would still be full of coats and boxes. I would have to pull everything out myself just to get to my mattress. Sometimes I would just sleep on the couch instead because it was easier. After about 6 months, they moved to a bigger house. I thought things would get better with more space. They didn't. The older stepsister got her own room. I had to share with the younger one. The few drawers I had for my clothes got reduced to 1 because the younger stepsister wanted the other ones for her toys. I started finding excuses not to go on weekends. I would tell my dad I had plans with friends or that I had too much homework. He didn't push back. He just said okay and that was that. Then Mallory got pregnant. They had been together for about a year at that point. I found out they got married when my dad mentioned his wife in passing during a phone call. I asked him when that happened and he said about a month ago. He got married at a courthouse and didn't tell me. He didn't invite me. When Mallory had the baby, I didn't find out until weeks later. I saw a photo on social media. I called him to ask about it and he acted like it was no big deal that he hadn't mentioned it. Around this time, my mom started complaining about money more. She would make comments about how tight things were and how she couldn't afford certain things for me. I didn't connect it to my dad at first. Then one day I overheard her on the phone with someone, maybe her sister, talking about how he had stopped sending child support months ago. She said she didn't want to take him to court because it would be messy and she didn't want to put me in the middle of it. But the money thing kept getting worse. Meanwhile, I could see exactly where his money was going. Mallory didn't work. She stayed home with the baby. The older stepsister was in college and he was paying for all of it. The younger stepsister, who was 10 by then, was posting videos on social media showing off expensive makeup and clothes. The baby had more toys than I'd ever seen in one place. When I did visit, which was rare, the house was always full of new stuff. Our old routine was completely gone. We didn't rent movies anymore. We didn't go fishing. We didn't go to the playground. When I was there, he would usually take me and the baby to a park and then sit on his phone while I was expected to watch her. If I said I didn't want to, he would get annoyed and say I was being difficult. The step-siblings mostly ignored me. The older one stayed in her room. The younger one acted like I was in her space, even though I was supposed to live there too. The visits became less about spending time together and more about him talking at me. He would go on these long rants about politics or tell me about whatever conspiracy theory he had read about online. If I tried to tell him about school or anything going on in my life, he would cut me off. He would say something like, yeah, that's great, and then go right back to whatever he was talking about. It was like talking to a wall. He wasn't interested in me as his daughter. He just wanted someone to listen to him. Last Christmas was bad. He didn't get me a real present. He picked me up and we drove to a Walmart. He handed me $200 in cash and told me to go buy myself something and that the rest could go toward child support or whatever. The way he said it, like it was a joke, made me want to throw the money back at him. My mom had been asking him for months to help with basic stuff like school supplies and groceries. $200 wasn't even close to what he owed. But he gave it to me like he was doing this huge generous thing. I didn't go back after that for a long time. He would call my mom every few weeks asking why I wasn't visiting, and she would tell him to call me directly. He would call me during school hours, which he knew I couldn't answer, and then call my mom back saying I was ignoring him. She would get frustrated and tell me I needed to make more effort. She kept saying he was still my dad and I needed to respect that. I started spending more time with James. He works a lot, but when he's home, he actually pays attention. He asks me questions and listens to the answers. He doesn't interrupt or talk over me. I got into writing a couple years ago and started working on a book. James was the one who encouraged me to actually finish it. He helped me figure out how to self-publish it online. When it went live, he told everyone he knew about it. He showed it to his coworkers. He posted about it on his social media. He called me his daughter when he talked about it, even though he's never officially adopted me. My dad doesn't know I wrote a book. I never told him because I knew he wouldn't care. James has a daughter from a previous relationship who lives in another state. I've met her a few times and we get along. She's in her 20s now and has her own life, but when she visits, she treats me like a real sister. It's nothing like how things are with my stepsisters at my dad's house. A few months ago, I told my mom I didn't want to visit my dad anymore. She said I was being dramatic and that every teenager goes through a phase where they don't want to spend time with their parents. I tried to explain that it wasn't a phase. He had made it clear I wasn't a priority. She didn't want to hear it. She said he loves me and I was being unfair. But if he loved me, wouldn't he have noticed that I stopped coming around? Wouldn't he have done something to fix it? The bed I sleep in at his house when I do visit isn't even considered mine anymore. It's the guest bed. When the younger stepsister has friends over, they use it. I've shown up before and found someone else's stuff all over it. Mallory looked surprised to see me one of those times, like she forgot I was supposed to be there. My dad hadn't told her I was coming. I don't feel like I belong there. I haven't for a while. But I don't know if I'm being unfair. He seems happy with his new family. The baby is cute and he's clearly obsessed with her. Mallory and the stepkids have what they need. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm supposed to just be okay with how things turned out. My mom keeps saying I should be happy for him, that he deserves to have a family that makes him happy. But what about me? I was his family first. I was his daughter first. And he just stopped caring. I don't know what I'm asking here. I guess I just want to know if I'm wrong for being upset. Am I supposed to just accept this? Is it selfish that I'm not happy for him? Update 1. I'm calling him Jerry from now on instead of my dad because that's what he is at this point. Just a guy named Jerry who I happen to be related to. My mom forced me to go visit him last weekend. I hadn't been there in almost 3 months. The whole thing was a disaster from start to finish. Here's how it usually goes when Jerry wants me to visit. He calls me on Friday afternoons. He knows I'm either in class or studying because I do online school and I stick to a schedule. I don't answer because I'm busy. Then he calls my mom and acts like I'm ignoring him on purpose. He tells her he misses me and wants to see me. She feels bad and tells me I have to go. It doesn't matter if I have plans. It doesn't matter if I tell her I don't want to. She makes me cancel everything and go. When I asked her why she keeps forcing this, she said it's to keep him from taking her to court. She's worried that if I stop visiting completely, He'll use it against her and try to get custody or something. Which doesn't make sense to me because he clearly doesn't want me around, but she's paranoid about it. At the same time, she calls him a deadbeat for not paying child support in over 2 years. She'll say in one breath that he's a terrible father and then in the next breath say he deserves my respect. It's confusing and exhausting. I should mention what happened at Christmas again because I didn't explain how bad it was. Jerry had bought a ton of new presents for Mallory and the kids. There were piles of wrapped gifts under their tree. When I got there, he didn't have anything wrapped for me. He said he figured I was old enough to pick out my own gift. Then he drove me to Walmart on Christmas Eve, gave me the cash, and told me to make it quick because he had to get back for dinner. I grabbed a couple books and some art supplies. The total was maybe $60. He took the rest of the money back and said that could go toward what he owed my mom, like he was doing us a favor. So last weekend, my mom told me I had to go. I tried to argue but she wasn't having it. Jerry picked me up Friday evening. The drive to his house is about 40 minutes. He spent the entire time talking about his life. He told me about the older stepsister's new boyfriend. He told me about some dance recital the younger stepsister had. He talked about how the baby was starting to say more words. He asked me one question about school. I started to answer and he interrupted me to go on this rant about some political thing he'd seen online. I stopped talking and just looked out the window for the rest of the drive. When we got to the house, Mallory looked completely shocked to see me. She clearly had no idea I was coming. Jerry hadn't told her. She tried to hide how annoyed she was but she's not a great actress. She said something about needing to get the room ready and went upstairs. The younger stepsister had a friend over for a sleepover. When I went to the room I was supposed to stay in, the friend's stuff was spread out all over the bed. The friend was sitting on it playing a game on her tablet. Nobody had bothered to tell her someone else would need the bed. The older stepsister didn't come out of her room the entire weekend except to go to the bathroom. Every time I saw her, she would just nod and go right back to her room. I don't think she said a single word to me. Saturday, Jerry wanted to take the baby to the playground. He told me to come with them. When we got there, he sat on a bench scrolling on his phone. The baby was running around and climbing on stuff and he expected me to follow her around and make sure she didn't hurt herself. I'm not a babysitter. She's not my responsibility. But when I sat down on the other end of the bench, he got irritated and told me I needed to help out. I asked him why he brought me if he was just going to make me watch his kid. He said I was being rude and that family helps each other. I didn't say anything after that. I just sat there while he went back to his phone. That night at dinner, Mallory made a big meal for everyone. It was fine. The food was good. But the whole time, Jerry was talking to Mallory and the kids like I wasn't there. He would reference inside jokes I didn't understand. He would talk about things they did during the week that I wasn't part of. I might as well have been invisible. Sunday morning, I told him I wanted to go home early. He asked why and I said I had work to do. He said I could do it there. I said I wanted to be home. He got annoyed and said I never wanted to spend time with him anymore. I didn't respond. He drove me back to my mom's house and didn't say a word the whole way. When I got home, I told my mom I wasn't going back. She said I had to. I said no. We argued for a while and finally she said she wouldn't force me anymore, but I don't believe her. She'll cave the next time he calls. Jerry has reached out a few times since then. He sends texts calling me his baby girl and saying he loves me. Every time I see those messages, I think about how things used to be. I think about our weekends and the playground and fishing at the lake. It makes everything worse because I know that version of him is gone. He's not coming back. And I don't know how to deal with that. Update 2. I talked to my mom again about not wanting to visit Jerry. This time she actually listened. She got angry, but not at me. She was angry at him. She sent him a series of long texts laying out everything. She brought up the child support. She brought up how he treats me when I'm there. She told him he had no right to call himself a father when he doesn't act like one. He didn't respond to her. I decided to text him myself. I wrote out everything I'd been holding in. I told him how I felt like a guest in his house. I told him our relationship had changed and he didn't seem to notice or care. I mentioned the child support because it's been affecting my mom and me for years now. I tried to be clear without being mean. He called me immediately. He didn't text back. He called and started yelling before I even said hello. He said I was spoiled and overdramatic. He said the reason we don't have a relationship is because I never visit. He said I was just reaching out to guilt him about money. He said I didn't care about him, I only cared about what he could give me. I tried to explain that wasn't true but he kept talking over me. I ended up hanging up on him. A few hours later, he left a voicemail. His tone was completely different. He said money was tight right now and he was doing his best. He said he was broke and couldn't afford to help my mom. He said he loved me and hoped I knew that. I know it's a lie. I see the stuff the younger stepsister posts online. She's constantly showing off new clothes and makeup that cost more than what my mom spends on groceries in a month. If he's broke, he's only broke when it comes to me. I decided I was done trying to fix things with him. There's no point. But I still had this idea that maybe I could make things official with James. I asked my mom if he would adopt me. She looked uncomfortable and said she had already talked to him about it. Apparently James said no. His reason was that he didn't want to disrespect Jerry or cause problems. He's the type of person who avoids conflict at all costs. He thought adopting me would be like a slap in the face to Jerry, even though Jerry has made it clear he doesn't prioritize me. That hurt more than I expected. I understood his reasoning, but it still hurt. I tried to talk to my mom about how I was handling all of this. She brushed me off. She said I was too young to be this upset about things and that I'd understand when I'm older. I asked if I could talk to someone, like a counselor. She said counselors don't help and that I should just talk to her or pray. I gave up after that. I've been focusing on school and writing instead. I finished my second book a few months ago and I'm working on the third one now. The first book I published, I dedicated it to Jerry. I wrote his name in the dedication page and thanked him for teaching me to be creative. I don't regret it because I dedicated it to who he used to be, not who he is now. He's never read it. I mentioned it to him once and he said writing books isn't a real career and I should focus on something more practical. So I stopped talking to him about it. Update 3. My mom is filing for custody and child support. It's finally happening. I'm homeschooled online, so I don't have access to a school counselor or anyone like that. And honestly, I don't trust most adults to keep things private. My stepdad hasn't been helpful with any of this. Whenever my mom and I disagree about something, he just sides with her to avoid an argument. So I've been dealing with most of this on my own. The custody arrangement my parents had was never official. It was just something they agreed on after the divorce. My mom thinks Jerry only stuck to it because he was in the process of getting his citizenship. He's originally from another country and the legalization process took years. Once it was finalized, he stopped pretending to care about the agreement. He stopped paying support and started spending everything on Mallory and her kids. I decided to give him one more chance. I chose to visit him. My mom didn't force me this time. I thought maybe if I tried one last time, things could be different. They weren't. The problem started as soon as I got in the car. I told him about this small business idea I had. I want to make book-themed subscription boxes with handmade bookmarks and jewelry. I thought it could be a way to make some money and combine it with my love of writing. He laughed and said it was stupid. He said it would never be profitable and I'd just be wasting my time and money. I stopped talking about it. Later in the drive, I mentioned that I was thinking about applying to some colleges. I brought up a few schools I was interested in. He went off on this rant about how certain cities are dangerous because of immigrants. The irony is that he's an immigrant. But he seemed to forget that. I pointed it out and he got defensive. We ended up arguing. I actually yelled at him, which I've never done before. He didn't like that. He spent the rest of the weekend complaining about my attitude. The final straw came when he started talking about women. He said most women just want to find rich men to take care of them. He said men don't like women who are too successful or independent. He said it's more important for a wife to respect her husband than the other way around. Then he smiled at me and said I was different, like he was giving me a compliment. He also made comments about some of my friends, saying they weren't real men because they're gay. And he made comments about my mom's heritage, calling it different in a way that wasn't a compliment. I memorized what he said. When I got home, I wrote it all down and sent it to my mom. That was the breaking point for her. She said she wasn't sending me back. She spent the next morning looking for my birth certificate and other documents she'll need for court. She wants full custody and she wants him to pay the years of child support he owes. I need that money for college since he's clearly not going to help. I don't know how long the court process will take. I don't know if it'll actually work out the way my mom wants. But at least she's finally doing something. I'm not going back to his house. I'm not answering his calls. I'm done.